Hello and welcome to the Peace and All Good podcast. I'm your host, Shelley Roeder, and we're very excited today to bring to you a conversation with Mary Leach-Sumlin, Associate Director of Franciscan Peacemakers, and Cynthia Perkins, Peer Support Specialist with Franciscan Peacemakers. These two are the primary outreach team of the Franciscan Peacemakers. One of the oldest ways that we have engaged with the population we serve is by going straight out to the streets to engage with women where they are actively engaged in prostitution in order to provide for basic needs of food and personal hygiene items and primarily dignity. So we'll hear from Cynthia and Mary about the work that they do, and because of social distancing, we couldn't get all three of us in the camera at one time. So it's just them on camera, and you'll hear my questions in the background. So just bear with us as we navigate the reality of social distancing and COVID. But we're so glad to have you in this conversation today, and thanks for being here. With that, let's hear from Mary and Cynthia. Mary and Cynthia, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley.
So please describe for me what outreach is all about.
We go out in areas of the city of Milwaukee, usually the more central parts of the city, where street prostitution is actively occurring, and ladies who are working, we have food and sometimes personal supplies for them. So when we see ladies, there's been, like Franciscan Peacemakers has been doing this type of work for over 25 years. And they're ladies who have been in this life or having this lifestyle for various number of years. And so they recognize us, a lot of them recognize us, and then the ones who don't, they catch on, and we just say, hi, how are you doing today? We from the Franciscan Peacemakers, we have some food, how you doing, are you hungry? And most of them say yes. A lot of them, many of them know us and recognize us, and they say, God bless you, or I was hungry, or I was, praying that you come by because I don't know what I was going to do, or, can I get one from my friend? And so, we have all kinds of responses. I've been doing this since 2017 with Deacon Steve, or with you, oftentimes Shelley, and most recently with Cynthia. So Cynthia and I now have a partnership of going out on the street from the north side to the south side to the, we're just all over, and we see people, we're trying to form relationships, build trust, and make sure that people have something to eat. We have like different types of relationships with the different ladies that we see a lot, and we joke around, and just kind of, it brightens their day, it brightens ours to know that we've made them feel better.
What's the hope for the ladies that we encounter by way of doing outreach?
I believe the hope that we have as an organization for the ladies is that they know that they are not alone in this world, that somebody cares for them, and that can inspire and encourage them as well to possibly look at their lives and see if they're really where they truly want to be, and that there are other possibilities.
Beautiful. Yeah. What's the hardest part of doing outreach for the two of you?
The hardest part for me is not really having a solution or a place for them to go, like, right then. Sometimes they need something and the need is immediate, and we aren't able to fulfill that need, and that's hard.
Yeah.
What's hard, I think, for me is that the women continue to suffer, and I think I see hopelessness. People accept or rationalize where they're at, and they just continue to accept it. And you just have a lot of compassion, and you wish that something for their life that is not really the reality at this time. And as Mary said, like, how do you convey to someone to take a look at yourself, which, on the other hand, may seem judgmental, to them, and all it is just some compassion, that you see them hurting, and it's something you wish you could make better.
Hey everybody, this is Shelly back in the recording studio, and I'm realizing something about myself as a podcast host, which is that I often have insights during the editing process that I didn't have during the interview. So I'm hoping to improve that. Until then, I am interrupting the conversation with Mary and Cynthia just to pause for a little self-reflection, because I think this question that Cynthia brings up is a really valid question to think about for any of us that witness people in our lives doing things that we know aren't good for them in the long run. And how do we encourage them to make better choices and to see other possibilities while simultaneously staying out of judgment, which is the first takeaway from our first episode from Deacon Steve, if you remember. Can we stay out of judgment long enough to hear somebody's story, right? So I've been sitting with this question since talking with Cynthia and Mary, and as I edit, it dawns on me that our outreach practice of going out on the streets and meeting women where they are at, day after day, week after week, year after year, provides a little insight into this question, right? Because we don't have a lot to offer them. We have bag lunches, we have some hygiene products, sometimes we have some clothes, but we don't have access to rehab facilities. We have 3 spots in our Clare community, but those are often full and hard to access because there's simply only 3 of them. But we continue to show up even though we just have us and our humble bag lunches, right? And so it dawns on me just the power of continuing to show up consistently. And I think it's a great point of reflection for ourselves. What troubled relationships or what people in our lives who are in pain do we need to just show up for and nothing else? We might not have any solutions. We might not have the resources or the tools that they need to get out of the predicament or the trouble that they're in. But maybe just showing up consistently with a sense of compassion will move them along the path towards healing in some way. Maybe just showing up can help repair difficult relationships. I think it's a really interesting thing to sit with. And so that's what I'm sitting with and hoping you will sit with this week too. And now Mary and Cynthia reflect a little bit on those women who do choose to exit the life on the streets based on Cynthia's own personal experience, but also based on Mary's experience of working with women in the Clare community. Mary serves as the director of the Clare community, our housing program for 3 women who decide to exit the streets. So we'll move into that conversation, and I just want to thank you for your indulging me with some self-reflection here. Back to the conversation with Mary and Cynthia. But there have been experiences of hope with women who do come off of the street to get into rehab. What do you think
creates that dynamic that a woman is able to make that choice to leave what she knows, what has maybe become comfortable, not comfortable, but has become familiar at least, in order to do the hard work of rehab.
Enough pain is my biggest guess, and hope, so like that's what Mary and I, and others who do this type of work want to encourage and inspire women that, this doesn't have to be the rest of your life, close this chapter and move forward, and you can, and with support, a lot of support, change is possible, and sometimes I think it's pain, because there's a lot of pain on the street, that, gives somebody the idea that like, I don't want to do this anymore, and that's like a time where, they need somebody, who can at least try to navigate a way out.
Yeah.
And I think that there are three things that will cause a woman to want to change her life. I think one is to be so tired and, just like, I've had enough of this and I'm going to try something new. Or experiencing a traumatic event, seeing or personally experiencing a beating or a killing or a near-death experience with a potential overdose. Or seeing someone, the third thing I think is seeing someone who is in recovery and doing well, and then knowing that that's a person who has walked in my steps and she has overcome. So I know that gives me hope that it's possible. So those are the three things that I personally believe are the reasons that would cause a woman to want to make changes in her life.
Yeah. That's really helpful, and I know that having been out on outreach with Cynthia, I see that with the women that know that you're on the healing journey and recovery. What's that experience like for you?
It's a good feeling. It really is. To know that people see that I have changed. And many of the women who do see. Have seen me on the other side. So, I think it's a powerful message, albeit that we don't see it for what it is at the moment, but it's something to think about, because I've seen people myself who have done something different. And it's like, well, maybe I could do that too, so I'm grateful that, I'm able to at least touch some people's lives. It's sometimes it's difficult, to see the people who I know and I care about. I don't know how to explain like the relationships and stuff, but you care about these people, besides all you've been through together, and you want to see something better for them as well. So some days it's difficult, but I have hope, and I continue to try to love on them, and be positive, encouraging, and fuss a little bit sometimes too.
I wanted to ask you about the fussing. I remember one time I asked you what was something that really helped you stay in recovery when things got hard. And you said, ranting.
And I rant and I rave, but I keep on going because, my life today is much better, it's more positive, a whole lot healthier, and hopeful and pleasant. I'm living today, and it's not like a fairy tale, as much as we all would love for it to be like a fairy tale. But I have a good life today, and I wouldn't trade trade it, and I don't want to trade it, you know. So I'm committed to pressing forward through whatever is necessary to stay on this path.
What advice would you give to people about what we can do, any of us can do, to support women who are trapped in the cycle of addiction and sexual exploitation?
My advice is to not look at her and think or believe that she's doing what she wants to do. And it may even look like she's enjoying it or it's not bothering her, but there's always a backstory. And to just know that what you see isn't always what you're looking at.
Do your best to not be judgmental. Look at the whole person, not just the behavior you see. You know, Mary is, again, said it all. You you can't judge a book by its cover. Because we all put on different faces, you know. And I think my personal opinion is, you know, it's what you have to do to get by. You know, like Mary said, it's not what you really want to do, but it's your means of survival. And what did you say? There's no failures. There's just bad.
There are no failures. There's success from bad decisions. There's never a failure. So they're not failing in life, but there's a poor decision, because at some point things become a decision.
Yeah.
And it's a poor decision, but it's successful.
It works for whatever it needs to work for to get through that day, through that. Interesting.
Moment.
Yeah, that's helpful. And that until you're in that situation, you can't really judge it because you just don't know.
Right.
Yeah. What is your favorite Franciscan Peacemaker bath and body product?
So, I'll say honey oatmeal.
So,
And lotion.
honey oatmeal soap and lotion.
Yes.
Yay. Mary?
Citrus blend, citrus burst, orange, the bath bombs, and the soap are my favorite.
So many thanks to Mary and Cynthia for their beautiful witness to this work and the great conversation we had. And as you heard, you get 20% off their favorite products, the Citrus Blend bar soap and bath bombs, which are great for summer, and the honey oatmeal soap and lotion, two of our best sellers, will be available for 20% off for the month using the code MaryCynthiaPod. Look for a link in the show notes for that discount. And as always, we'll end the episode listening to what Mary and Cynthia do to take care of themselves and to stay grounded for this work. Thanks again for being with us this week, and until next week, peace and all good.
Yeah. So along with ranting and raving, what else? What else do you do to take care of yourself and to stay grounded?
I pray a lot. And I think that's my greatest source of strength. Because I don't do a whole lot more. I rant a lot as well. I rant a lot, and the people who love me, who have grown to love me, listen. I do participate in the 12-step. Also have a therapist. I have a great network of people in my life who support me.
Mary, how about you? What do you do to take care of yourself and stay grounded and centered, even amidst all the violence and trauma that you witness?
I pray, and I have a good supportive network of friends. So I talk to my friends, about different things, and I laugh. Like, I always see the funny in. There's something funny about everything, and some people may think it cruel of you to laugh at some of the things that I laugh at, but there's some funny in everything, and I find the funny, and I laugh, and I rant a little bit, and it's on to the next problem.
Yeah.